Welcome to the DC Movie Report for Joker. I'm Little Eddie O'Hare.
And I'm Sarah Netzley, academic by day, writer by night.
And we're here to talk about Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix, the highly anticipated origin movie of Batman's arch nemesis, which dropped this week. And yeah. Thanks for joining us. Sarah, I saw this movie Thursday night with our friend and executive producer Bill Sweeney. Sarah, you saw it last night?
I saw it yesterday afternoon at a 3:30 showing at one of the smaller theaters in the area. Was your screening full of excited Joker fans?
No, actually. Well, the theater we went to was showing it every half hour. And I surprisingly, I mean, this broke records. I think it broke a record for an R-rated movie with like $13 million on a Thursday night. But the theater was not as full as I thought it was going to be.
I didn't have high expectations for 3:30 on a Friday, and they were met with the three of us who were there alone, and I was the only woman. And the kid taking the tickets was one for Joker, please, and he kind of gave me a not Downton Abbey? No, Joker.
So yeah, it's just trying to all right. Yeah, people are wondering like what we thought, and
here's the fun thing. Ed and I haven't talked about this. I don't know what Ed thought. I'm really excited to hear. We've not conversed about this. What did you think?
It was fine. All right? It was fine. Fine.
It was a well-made movie that I enjoyed 0% of.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you did not like it. All right. Well,
did not. We'll
do some surface stuff here before we get into spoilers. I would say I agree. It was a well-made movie. I think, I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting character study. I feel like a lot of it had already been done before in the movies that it was directly referencing, like Taxi Driver.
I was going to say that are not Batman movies.
Yes. Yeah. Like Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and Mean Streets and Dog Day Afternoon. And, yeah, pretty much any movie set in New York during the 70s or early 80s. And as a comic book fan, the way that they played around with canon and just kind of like how they tried to make it fit into the DC universe, I did not really care for. And I think if this had not been about the Joker, if it had just been a movie like that, it would have been more interesting. But I also feel like if it hadn't been about the Joker, that movie would not have gotten made because people would think it's already been made.
And if it had gotten made, I don't know that people would have come because it's so relentlessly grim and ugly. I mean, that's just my take. It so desperately wants to like be smart and say something, but it's not as smart as it thinks it is. Mm-hmm. It keeps trying to say things and then it literally says them on the screen. And it's just so like edgelord. Like, look at me. So edgy. I don't know. I could feel the sweat on Joaquin Phoenix's performance. It felt so showy and so consciously look at what I'm doing. It was one of those actor showcases and it's fine. I'm the wrong person for this because 70s New York movies are not my thing. This is not my oeuvre. This is not my thing. Not my thing. And okay. So I like my Joker with a little more camp and a little less blame the mentally ill.
Mm.
You know.
Well, 70s movies are my thing. So I did enjoy a lot of those aspects to it. Fairly enough, I feel like I almost feel like I've grown out of this movie as a person. Like
Yeah, because you're not a 22-year-old angry boy. I mean, right?
yeah,
You're an adult.
Yeah, I was kind of gonna compare it to the Boondock Saints, which is a movie like that
Yes.
that young boys watch when they're 18 and fall in love with it and think like this is the movie that speaks for my generation. This one's about me, and don't understand why everybody hates it. And then 10 years pass and you watch it again and go like, oh, okay, yeah, all right.
This
Maybe.
makes me want to text my brother right now. He's a little younger than me, and he was a big fan about 15 years ago.
Mhm.
So I'm curious
Mhm.
what he thinks now. Huh. That is a good comparison. Because my reaction to Boondock Saints was really similar to my reaction to this movie, but I was a little more my volume was turned up on this movie. So yeah.
Mhm. And so yeah, I think that's our basic reaction, and I'm really sorry. I don't think this is going to be a long episode.
No, and that's fine. I would say before we go to spoilers, the cinematography, great. Music, really unsettling, really well done for the mood it was trying to evoke. I think it was technically a good movie. I just the 70s lighting and the colors and the it was just all super bleak and grim, and the storyline was super bleak and grim, and
yeah,
but
yeah.
I had popcorn, so it wasn't all bad.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
This is also one of those movies where I came up with a better idea for the ending in my head, and I became angry. And I don't think that's the movie's fault. But it coincidentally it happened.
Can we pivot to spoilers now, because I want to ask about the ending?
All right, so I'll put it in here. Spoilers.
Vamping in case your phone's across the room and you're scrambling to pause. Did I give enough time for that? I think I probably did. Was it super obvious to everybody, including people in the lobby going to Downton Abbey, how that movie was going to end?
Yes.
With the Robert De Niro character?
Yes. Yeah. That he was going to shoot the Robert De Niro character in the head.
Because you know what else we have to reference? Network.
Yes.
So, the only shot in this movie that I really liked was the wall of TVs. I like that. Of course, I'm a mass comm PhD, so of course I like that. But this idea of amplifying his message and amplifying the fear and anger and rage and nihilism, that was great. I loved that shot.
Yes. Yeah. And from what you're saying, the predictability, it really is like, I feel like they took a bunch of different stuff with movies, put them in a blender, and sprinkled Joker on top of it. Like the whole idea where he falls in love with his neighbor and kind of fantasizes that she's his girlfriend. That is a direct lift from Mean Streets. Like that, like there's a whole thing with Harvey Keitel, eyes this black stripper from afar and then has this fantasy where they go on a date together. And like it's in his head, it happens completely different from the way it does in reality. And like that's I feel like Todd Phillips owes Marty Scorsese money after that.
I feel like Todd Phillips owes me money.
Did you see his movie War Dogs with Jonah Hill and Miles Teller?
I don't know that I did. Is it worth a watch? I like 50% of those actors.
I would say no. But that was his first entree into more serious material. That it was his first movie that wasn't like a straight up comedy, that had a little bit more of an edge to it. And the takeaway I came from that was that it felt very immature. And it was something that wanted to have like a big socio-political message, but just handled it in a very juvenile way. And I feel very similar to this. I have a very similar feeling with this movie. like it was trying to tackle heavy subjects. But there's really nothing. It's all surface. There's really nothing underneath there.
Yeah. And there was an article in Yahoo of all places that talked about this guy is going to lead, like, this lack of charisma makes everybody uncomfortable, not a leader, no real logical ordered thought process, which I know the Joker doesn't have. Like, how is this guy the Joker we know? How is this guy leading? He's just not it. You know how the movie could have ended? Ended with the Joker mask guy going down the alley after the Waynes. An end. And we know what's going to happen, and we know what the Joker inspired, and we don't necessarily know that he becomes the Joker.
Well, yeah.
And I don't know that we know that he becomes the Joker, but I just thought that would have been a more interesting ending to end with that, so we don't have to see those damn pearls again.
Well, actually, I feel, yeah. For the longest time, the way I thought it was going to end, when he got hit by when he's in the cop car and they get smashed by the ambulance, was that he was going to die in that scene, and that the real Joker was going to be one of the people, on the street. So that he's kind of like a proto Joker, the guy who inspired the Joker, that he's not the actual Joker.
And then you get somebody who's a little more wily and capable of actually motivating masses. But as it turns out, the real Joker was the friends we made along the way. No, wait, the real Joker.
Well, and that's the other thing that really frustrates me, is the timeline here makes no sense, because Joaquin Phoenix is way too old to be the Joker when little Bruce Wayne grows up.
Okay. Let's just say he's way too old for the timeline that they laid out. All that stuff happened 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That dude is 45. That dude looks a lot older than 45.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that's a problem. And the movies on the marquee are explicitly from 1981. Zorro the Gay Blade, things like that. So
do you know how, because in the comics they say the movie that he watches is The Mark of Zorro, starring Tyrone Power from the 40s, and that the Zorro movie they found in the 80s is Zorro the Gay Blade with George Hamilton. I find that incredibly funny.
Yeah.
A shout out to my buddy Steve Williams. He'll know what to my buddy Steve Lamort. He'll know what that means.
It was maybe the only funny part of the movie. This movie had no funny parts. This is
no. No, you didn't.
Oh, no. You know what was funny? The idea that there was like a clown company where you could call and rent a clown that employed so many clowns.
You know what? In New York City,
very surprising.
In New York City in the 80s, I'm sure that was a gig economy. I'm sure that was a thing. I bet that's a thing.
So I guess I was curious about the unreliable narrator aspect, because Thomas Wayne and Alfred Pennyworth were so awful. They were so mean and unpleasant. And so I wondered if, was that part of the unreliable narrator of it all? Or are they just, I mean, is the Thomas Wayne that we got in Pennyworth, who I also found to be kind of unpleasant, was Thomas Wayne just kind of unpleasant?
So here's the thing with unreliable narrators who have mental illnesses. All right, who have delusions that are confusing the audiences. Here's the thing, and I'm doing this because Mr. Robot starts its last season this week, and I've been rewatching the whole series. After Mr. Robot, no one should be allowed to do that anymore. All right, it's done. We figured it out. So you can stop trying. If you really feel like you have to do it, you should run it by Sam Esmail first. All right, that's the only guy.
In fact, run most things by Sam Esmail. Just do us all a favor and let him give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Maybe Noah Hawley from Legion. Maybe if you run it by him instead. But like one of those two guys.
If Esmail's busy.
and this leads into, that when I told you I had an idea for the ending that made more sense to me and that I liked better. And again, I say that's not the movie's fault. You know, I don't, you know, I don't think you should complain about the movie that you wanted to see. You know, but uh, the idea that I had, they, you know, you have all these things of, he kept imagining the neighbor with him, that they were together, that she was his girlfriend standing by him through like his mother's stroke and everything. If you'd made it somehow so that at the end, after he shoots Robert De Niro, when he goes out into the street, that those protesters are not really there, or that they're not there for him, and that he realizes that is all a fantasy, and that he actually is reviled, and people see, and that, you know, he is a terrible person, that was all a dream in his head. I think that would have been more effective, because I think what people are trying to pin on this movie is that, you know, it's something that incels are going to rally around, and that people are going to use this as a rallying cry, which it's not really strong enough for that. But that really would have been to me the way to kick those people in the teeth and say, no, this is not someone to model yourself after. This is not even something someone to sympathize with. This is someone who's crazy and unhinged and does not have a proper grip on reality and won't inspire anyone but himself, but is dangerous and needs to be stopped. And if we don't put him away, he will cause nothing but mayhem and terror.
A+, I support that. You are correct. I love that would have been a message that sat much more easily with me than the sort of triumphant, I pulled it off over the Chads and Stacys. I mean, that's how it really felt to me. And that's, of course, incel speak. I'm so frustrated with how it handled the presumed death of the neighbor. She was an important figure to him, and then we don't get any resolution. They take that completely off screen, and we don't know what happens. Same with the woman at the end, the social worker at the end in the prison. They softened presumed death of women in a way that I found very strange, and kind of robbed them of, I don't know, agency or last moments in a way that they. And if they'd done it the other way, if they had glorified murdering just the women, I'd be upset about that too. This movie's not going to win with me.
I don't think he murdered the neighbor. I think she got the sense that you know, when she asked him to leave, he realized what happened and just
really
left.
I felt like we heard a ramp up of sirens shortly afterward. That to me was them finding her. Like I felt like there was enough in the background that you could interpret it that way.
I think it's just New York. I just read that.
That's just New York.
That's just New York. There are sirens. There are
Okay.
always sirens driving by. You know, even you know, I live in a kind of quiet neighborhood in Staten Island, and we have cops driving by all the time. So that's that was nothing new to me.
But I feel like that character deserved more of an ending either way.
I agree with you there.
I don't know. It wasn't interesting enough to be ambiguous. It was just ambiguous to be like, we don't really care what, you know. We're not going to give you the end of that story because we don't really care about her. And that's really frustrating to me. What was the other, no, I don't know. I mean, the one bit of ambiguity I did like, the one thing I thought was interesting was he was adopted. His mother had no relationship with Thomas Wayne, but he finds that picture with a Thomas Wayne inscription on the back. Now, it could be that she wrote that because she doesn't seem any more hinged than him. But it could be that Thomas Wayne was lying. I did like that little bit of, was it her or was it Thomas Wayne who lied? Or was it, you know, that was interesting to me. That was ambiguity that was spelled out and made us think about it.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that too. I don't think it's really clear either way. You know, if his adoption was something that was made up, and whether or not she really was crazy. I think definitely she was bad news. And you know, we find out later that she put him in danger, and that's why she was in that hospital. But yeah, I think it was tragic when he opens that letter. and you read that she thinks he's Thomas Wayne's son, I was immediately was waving my middle finger at the screen. I thought, give me a break. Don't do this. Blofeld does not have to be James Bond's brother. This doesn't to me it felt like it was going down that road. And to be fair, they did make it ambiguous, and it kind of think he's not really that, and that just kind of shows that's just the and it is the sad and tragic plight. Arthur Fleck is the name of the character. I can't believe we didn't say that.
And his mother's name is Penny Fleck.
Penny Fleck. Yeah. And yeah,
I just in general don't like the mentally ill are violent storyline that happens in Hollywood way too much. Statistically, people with mental illness are far more likely to be victims or abuse victims, things like that. So it's not, this was not great. Not great all the way around.
But yeah, I can give you a list of other movies that this steals from or borrows from that you could probably watch instead and have a much more fun time with.
I will say I've never seen King of Comedy, and so I've read over and over that was a reference in this movie, and actually quite deeply so, because you've got De Niro. So it made me curious to see that. Honestly.
Yes, yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that's a good movie. Actually, probably like the best acting Jerry Lewis has ever done in his life.
Well, okay. I mean, that bar is kind of. But I did like the Pitch Perfect late night 80s show, the patter, the set, all of it. That was fun. I mean, there was some loving homages there. Streets Full of Garbage was a little on the nose. Little on the nose.
Yeah. I wonder if they were piggybacking off of the sets from The Deuce on HBO. Because it looked like the exact same setting. And that is one thing that bothered me a little bit, was it felt so much like New York, like early 80s New York, that I didn't get enough Gotham in there. Like, I wanted to see more that this was Gotham City. Like, Christopher Nolan, I thought does a better job of seeing how, like, sometimes Gotham looks like New York, sometimes it looks like Chicago.
Yeah, I actually, it was almost a visible or like a jolt for me when I was like, oh no, this is Gotham. Like I was just, oh yeah, New York. So I had to be reminded, right.
Yeah. And I know it might have disturbed the vibe that the movie was going for, but I would have liked to seen a little bit more stuff that with the architecture that would have looked more uniquely Gotham City.
I just wanted to watch Batman the Animated Series to like cleanse my palate. So.
There you go. Just pull up all the Joker episodes. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. But yeah. Again, go takeaways. I did love all the character actors that we got to see. I like Glenn Fleshler as Randall, the guy who gives him the gun. The two detectives who were trying to track him down are played by Shea Wiggum and Bill Camp, who are like, two of the best that guys in the business.
Yeah. And I love Zazie Beetz. I think she's great. She was wonderful in Deadpool 2. She was great in an episode of the Twilight Zone reboot. She's a lot of fun, and I enjoy her on screen in everything but this, and I look forward to her getting a better role next time. Another thing that happened here is the way they kind of handle the crowds. That one scene. Oh, we got to see Charlie Chaplin. And I wish we'd seen more of that roller skating scene. But when he's sneaking into the theater, like the way he does it, he just kind of like walks under the police line and no one stops him and sees him kind of like sneak into that stairwell. The lack of security, I found kind of shocking, but only because, okay, so Arthur sneaks into that theater,
finds some oversized usher's uniform, puts it on, and then finds his way up into the balcony, and then walks over and stands in the center of the aisle, eyeing Thomas Wayne from across the theater. Are you still with me, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Everybody was in tuxedos. It was weird.
Directly behind him is a security guard standing at the top of the aisle who is completely ignoring Arthur Fleck. And is directly in the audience's line of vision. So like I'm staring at Arthur who's eyeing Thomas Wayne, and then right behind him is this security guard who's doing nothing. And if that security guard wasn't there, I would not be thinking about how is Arthur getting away with this.
He's clearly not an usher. He's clearly not supposed to be there.
Yeah, like why isn't that guy walking up and asking, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Or trying to get him the hell out of there? Like
maybe he just doesn't get paid enough for that. I mean,
that's literally what you're paid to do is to investigate suspicious characters. Just that was just something that bothered me. It was something that bothered me.
Oh, I was bothered by how much I enjoyed seeing Marc Maron on screen. I usually don't really like him, but in this movie, he was a bright, gleaming light of like joy and happiness for me. Oh, hey,
yeah,
that guy from Glow. I really like Glow.
Yeah, and you know what? He was right. He was right. You don't want this guy in your show. Yeah. Everyone's screaming about the, all the killer clown. Well, guess what? This guy actually is the killer clown. He was bad news. Murray should have listened to him.
Well, Murray got what Murray got.
Mm-hmm. And Robert De Niro as Murray Franklin, I thought was much funnier in this than when he played a comedian in The Comedian. So yeah, and I actually thought the conversation that they had on air, like when the tables turned and Arthur admits to killing those guys in the subway, and how real it got, that actually felt genuine to me. Like if this had actually happened on a talk show, that's how it would go down. Except I think the people in the booth would have known to cut away before he fired the gun. But whatever.
Yeah, you'd think somebody in the production room would have been like, okay, we gotta put this on a delay or something. Yeah. We gotta. Yeah.
But that scene I thought was very well acted by both Phoenix and De Niro. I thought that was a really, really good scene.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is gonna get an Oscar nomination for this, right? Like, this feels like that.
I mean, he's definitely put in the work. I would not be surprised. I also would not be surprised if he doesn't. Yeah, I think time will tell.
Yeah, I guess I mean that's just having it both ways. Like, yeah, he could or he couldn't, but you're right. Like it's the kind of performance that could, but maybe the kind of movie that couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to apologize when I said I didn't think the DC movie universe could get darker than they did with Superman. Like, it wasn't a challenge. I wasn't asking for it. I feel like I didn't deserve this.
Well, the good news is the next movie that we're going to be covering, the next movie that we're going to be watching,
yes.
we saw a trailer, and it is Margot Robbie starring in Birds of Prey, or The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Which
okay. Whoever at DC is putting out the posters for Wonder Woman 1984 and for Birds of Prey, thank you. That's my exact aesthetic. Women in gold in front of like rainbows. Oh my God. So great. So great. Please don't let me down. Directed by a woman. Please don't let me down. Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
And I love the tone. I love that it looks like a lot of the effects are practical. It doesn't look like a CG fest, but it's still bonkers and all over the place. It feels, I mean, right, and this may be the wrong thing. It looks like everything Suicide Squad trailers promised us it would be. I hope it looks like this movie actually is.
Yeah, that I hope so. And yet, before Joker, there was a trailer for the new Terminator movie that actually looked pretty great. And I was reminded of how good Terminator Salvation that trailer was, and then that movie was terrible. So I had to remind myself, seeing that Terminator trailer, you can't trust trailers, but I want to trust this Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous.
Well, we'll have to see. So that was our talk on the Joker. We'll see you in February to discuss
and not before then.
Birds of Prey. And please listen to the DC TV report every week. And
please, universe, don't give us a Joker 2. Please. God, please.
Yeah. So yeah, just quick, thank you, everybody. That's the movie report for Joker. Let's any last thoughts you want to leave our listeners with before we sign off, Sarah?
Why so serious? No, I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing.
All right, that's fine. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Edward O'Hare TBD. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm at Little Eddie O'Hare.
And I'm at Sarah Netzley, SaranEtzley.
Follow the show on Twitter at DCTV Report. Send along your emails to dctv@wickedtheory.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our show on your podcast app of choice and rate and review us. That helps more people find us. Check out our sister shows, the Wicked Theory Podcast and Preacher vs. Preacher. This has been a Wicked Theory Studios production. Executive producer, Bill Sweeney. Visit us at wickedtheory.com. Shazam, everybody.
Shazam.
Shazam!